Welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discussed the important events that would have taken place in Guyana over the past week or so. And as is the norm, we always have a packed agenda of issues to discuss. I want to begin by welcoming all of our viewers who are joining us on television from region number 5 and region number 6. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our listeners who are joining us from Freedom Radio on Rob Street, Georgetown, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And last but not least, to the thousands of you who are joining us on Facebook Live right across the length and breadth of Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and as far as Australia. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. Please press that share button. Press that share button to ensure that this program is shared with all of your friends and all of your followers so that we can have the widest possible audience. Press the share button, share this program widely so that all your friends and all your followers can join us in tonight's discussion. Use the comment section to raise any questions, pose your comments, offer your criticism, but do so respectfully. Use the comment section, ask questions, raise issues, and even criticize me, but do so respectfully. I want this program to be engaging, I want it to be interactive, and that is why I encourage your input. Leslie Mongol, John Mirai, Barry Sanchara, Thomas Joseph, Arjun Jawahir, Dwayne London, Naya Singh, Jeremy Thomas, welcome all of you to another program of Issues in the News. You will sense that my voice is a little affected, and that is because I have been going at it relentlessly. I came back from a very important government engagement in Qatar. The flight from Qatar to JFK is 14 hours, and then a layover in United States, and you had to do that going as well. And it's very, very cold now in New York. And since I've been back, I've been on the road non-stop. Our government is in express mode as we continue to work every single day to ensure a better life for all of Guyana and all of its people. This is the festive season, and our entire cabinet is out in the communities spreading Christmas cheers, spreading the festivities, distributing toys. A toy can mean a lot for a child who doesn't have one and can't afford one. And our government's objective is to ensure that at least every single child has a toy for this Christmas that can bring that joy and that happiness. Of course, we are distributing hampers to the less fortunate because we want every single person to be happy for this Christmas and this festive season. So between today and yesterday, I did toy distributions and Christmas parties for children in 12 communities in just 2 days. And I will continue tomorrow along the east coast of Demerara. And that is the pace that our government is moving at. I am only one member. every member of our government is doing the same thing in different parts of the country. And we are led by His Excellency, the President himself, who, as you would see and would have seen in the social media and in the news, is engaged in multiple activities of this nature, and we will continue to do so until the conclusion of the great Christmas, the great season of Christmas. Whether we are sick, whether we are ill, whether we are under the weather, the work must continue, and that is our commitment to the people of this country. And from that commitment, we will not resile. So please excuse my voice, but I'm sure that you are hearing me. I've been asked to inform, in particular, the people of Berbice, East Berbice in particular, that channel NTN Television, which is broadcasting and streaming this program live in Berbice for both regions 5 and 6, can now be seen as far as Crabwood Creek. In fact, I am told that it can be seen in Naikiri as well. So congratulations are extended to the owners and operators of NTN, channel 69 in Georgetown, and I believe it's 46 in Berbice. Their signal now goes all the way to Crabwood Creek and even to Naikiri. So that's the extent of the reach now of this program via television. As you all know, I was in Qatar last week, and that's why this program was not aired. And you will be, maybe you are not going to be, but I was pleasantly surprised to learn that Guyanese in Qatar, and there are many Guyanese in Qatar, look at this program religiously and faithfully every single week. So wherever I go, I meet people who look at this program and they follow this program very faithfully. It means, therefore, that something right is being done on this program, and that is why we must continue to ensure that this program succeeds. We have one more edition of Issues in the News before the end of 2025. As I said some time ago, the end of this year will mark the end of a decade for Issues in the News. Time flies. And I say with great immodesty that this is now arguably, or rather unarguably, the longest running commentary on the social media in Guyana. I will be completing the first decade of this program at the end of 2025. And I want to thank all of you who have been following this program and viewing this program so faithfully over the last decade. And I am prepared to be here for another decade once you are ready to stand with me and increase our viewership. I know that we have consistently increased our viewership over the years because I see new names, but we have had some stalwarts and some really faithful persons who have been on this program and with this program from the inception. And I want to take this opportunity to salute you and to thank you very much for your association with this program over the last many, many years. and to welcome all the newcomers, and I want the newcomers and the old timers to encourage as many persons as possible to view this program, join us every Tuesday as we expand our family, the issues in the news family. In the year, during the course of next year, I may increase the length of the program and add a call-in dimension. I will use a WhatsApp number so that you can call from whichever jurisdiction you are in, and it will be free. And we can even have a greater interactive program. So, and next year I would like also, on some occasions, to invite guests to the program so that we can have discussions and dissenting views and intellectual analysis of important issues from various viewpoints: government, opposition, civil society, etc. So the program is not going to be me all the time. We are going to broaden the horizon and the scope of the program as we go along during the course of next year and beyond. So we are winding down the year 2025, and it has been a very eventful year. It has been a great year, I think, for Guyana. It has been a good year for me. It has been a good year for the People's Progressive Party. We went to an elections and we returned to office, or we were returned to office with a very impressive majority. But the political landscape of the country has changed dramatically. For the first time, we have seen the PNC being demolished at the polls. For many years, they rigged elections and won, and then when free and fair elections were returned to Guyana, they never won an election by themselves during that period, but they were always a very reliable second in the race. They won on one occasion when they collated with the Alliance for Change. And I don't say APNU deliberately, I say the PNC, because really it is the PNC. But the 2025 elections have changed that, and we have a newcomer in the political arena. But tonight is not to discuss that. Tonight I want to spend some time in examining His Excellency's address to the nation, which was delivered last Wednesday at the Artachang Convention Center. It was a marathon address, very comprehensive, very expansive, very analytical, and very visionary. It embraced almost every important national endeavor in this country. And I want to zero in on my sector, the justice sector, and the legal sector of our country. And the President spoke at length on this sector. Let me say from the outset that the People's Progressive Party, from the inception, January the 1st, 1950, and every government of the People's Progressive Party has embraced certain important concepts and have considered them to be fundamental pillars of both the party and the government when it is in government. And among those pillars is the rule of law, which is a singular term that is very encompassing in its connotation. The rule of law is considered, has always been considered by the People's Progressive Party and People's Progressive Party governments as the foundation upon which a democratic society is built and upon which social progress takes place. In the absence of the rule of law, there is anarchy, there is lawlessness, there is economic stagnation, there is social degradation. The rule of law includes a functional legislative system, an independent, impartial, and efficient judiciary, access to justice, and a system that delivers justice in a manner that is accessible to all. Those are all key and critical concepts in this doctrine called the rule of law, to which every modern society must be wedded, and indeed is wedded, once it is democratic and once it's successful. Guyana is no different, and the People's Progressive Party has always embraced that concept. In his address, the President captured the essence of that concept and the essential principles that make up that concept. He spoke about the rule of law and our adherence to it. He spoke about the importance of an independent, efficient judiciary. He spoke about equitable and equal access to justice by every single Guyanese, whatever their station is in life or wherever their geographic location is. He spoke about an accountable judiciary, and he spoke about modern legislative framework that must be established to cradle the developmental trajectory of Guyana. So in essence, the President articulated how important the rule of law with all its accompanying tenets is to a modern Guyana. And he went on to elaborate on some issues which I want to dwell on. And the President spoke in recognition of the fact that the judiciary is an independent and autonomous organ of government, And he spoke conscious of the fact that he is the head of the executive and that there is a constitutional doctrine called the separation of powers that enshrine a division of responsibility between these two important organs, as well as the third important organ in the makeup of our constitutional structure, and the third one being the legislature. And the president spoke from the position of recognizing that these three arms, in particular, the judiciary, must remain independent of the other two. And that is why, before he spoke on this issue, because recognizing that he was delivering a 5-year vision and a 5-year plan for Guyana, he consulted with the judiciary on these matters. And a lot of what he articulated about the judiciary came from the judiciary itself. And I want to highlight that important fact because by itself and without more, it demonstrates good governance at work, and it is an illustration of democratic and consultative governance and government at play. Many leaders may have spoken on this very issue, but project what they, as the executive, would like to see take place in this agency over the next 5 years. But the president did not choose that unilateral approach. Instead, he engaged the judiciary in consultation and included their input in his policy directives, which he saw as imperatives and as part of his vision, which he articulated last Wednesday. I say that because many a time when the executive speaks of and concerning the judiciary, there is a tendency for accusations to emanate, alleging interference and alleging attempts to undermine the judiciary. That those accusations cannot be leveled here because the president consulted with the judiciary and in the main articulated many of the concepts which the judiciary itself highlighted to the president in their consultation, in the consultative process. And let me highlight significantly that the common thread that ran through the engagement between the executive and the judiciary in this regard produced important common threads. As both agencies are aligned in many significant respects. So there should not be a collision course between these two important agencies. And that bodes well for our development equation, and it bodes well for our constitutional harmony of these important organs. So the judiciary itself recognizes how important it is for it to make its services accessible to all. And that is why over the last 5 years, the judiciary and the executive have worked assiduously in building out courthouses right across the length and breadth of our country, in particular in the outlying areas, and equipping those courthouses with all the modern facilities and amenities that technology offers, as well as other basic comforts and necessities. So a court at Madhya has the same facilities as a court in Georgetown. A court at Port Kaituma has the same facilities as the court at New Amsterdam. You have internet hearings, and it's air conditioned. You have automatic recording of evidence and all the amenities in all these courts. The point I am making is that you see an alignment of objectives from the judiciary as well as the executive. So when the judiciary asks for resources for the construction of these courts, the executive, once affordability permits, had no difficulty in supporting these initiatives. And a lot of work was done in that regard over the last 5 years. We still have a few more outlying courts to construct and or renovate. Well, I would like to say construct, because the new approach is to demolish the old buildings because they were made of wood and they were incapable of renovation. So we demolish them and we build new modern concrete structures with residence for both magistrates and clerical and secretarial staff. So that's a general architectural layout of a typical magistrate's court now. And we have to build a couple more, one at Wakenham, one at Legwan, and one at Oriala. And those three, I think, may be in the budget of 2026. Having built out those courts, we now have to concentrate on a singular modern judicial complex in Georgetown that will house the Court of Appeal and the High Court in one massive structure, modern, with parking facilities, etc. And of course, we have to look at the Magistrates Court, Georgetown, because that has also outlived its size. So that's the physical infrastructural part of it. But in making the judiciary in making the judiciary achieve, or in assisting to make the judiciary to achieve its core objective, which is to deliver quality, impartial justice to the people of Guyana equitably. We have to also invest in systems. And the government is moving the entire governance structure into a digital mode. And the judiciary is doing exactly that. And the government is supporting the judiciary in that regard. Because digitization and moving the judiciary into the digital age is crucial to bringing greater efficiency and accountability. And I'll speak about accountability later. So the president said that the government will continue to support the judiciary as it moves into this new age of information, technology, and digitization. In this regard, we have case management systems that the judiciary has purchased of international characterization and has been using it. We now have e-filing of cases across the spectrum in the High Court, the Full Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Caribbean Court of Justice. We don't use paper anymore. The filing of the cases, the filing of pleadings, the filing of submissions, the filing of authorities, filing of legislation in support of arguments, everything is done electronically. And most hearings are done electronically by various technological platforms. And the president has pledged to continue to work with the judiciary in ensuring that these concepts continue to be utilized in ensuring we get quality service from the judiciary. At the level of the magistrates' court, that process is a work in progress, moving the magistrate system, the magistracy, into the electronic and digital mode as well. And by mid-2026, that process should also be completed. When it is completed, the entire system would be electronic and digital. Even when you pay, you have to pay fines, or you have to pay for filing, or you have to pay bail. Any engagement will be done electronically, and the same will take place in relation to important adjunct organizations of the judiciary. For example, the Deeds and Commercial Registry Authority and the Land Registry. When you go to file your conveyance, incorporate your companies, or do any transaction with those agencies, it will be done electronically, and payments will be done electronically. And that is the objective. Why we are doing all of this? We are doing all of this simply because we want a system that works. We want a system that delivers justice in a uniform fashion, consistent with law, based upon evidence, and not upon the whim and fancy of judicial officers, not based upon preconceived concepts, not based upon prejudices and biases, but based upon objectivity and the law. And as all the executive asks of and from the judiciary. And that is what the people of Guyana must demand from their judiciary. To achieve these objectives, we have to have law reforms, legislative reforms. So the legal profession is very crucial in this equation. A responsible, educated, ethically driven legal profession and a vibrant bar association are prerequisites for a society that wishes to adhere to the rule of law, and one that I will leave it there. In Guyana, sadly, the legal profession does not meet those standards. And I say so with the greatest of respect. I am a member of the profession. And the judiciary itself highlighted this issue in their engagement. And they are calling for legislative reform to the Legal Practitioners Act. And the government will support that measure. In fact, I will be meeting with the Guyana Bar Association in January to begin that conversation. You who are listening to me, any one of you, would know, if you have not experienced it yourself, would know a person who is dissatisfied with the way their case is being handled by their lawyers and or the way the case is being handled in the judiciary. I could bet you my bottom dollar that you have had that experience personally, or you know someone who has had that experience. That must change. That must change. And we have to make both the judiciary and the legal profession more accountable. I believe that both the judiciary and the legal profession will work with us to achieve these important concepts, these important objectives, because they themselves, I believe, well, I know for a fact that the judiciary professes to be pursuing policies and strategies to make it more accountable. And I can't see the legal profession would not want to move in that direction. The Legal Practitioners Act have to be amended. We have to have a stronger regime of discipline for errant practitioners as well as errant judicial officers. Of course, we must do so in accordance with the constitutional parameters and in line with principles of accountability and transparency. Guyana is not the only country in the world facing these problems, and we intend to tackle them head on the same way that we are tackling similar issues in similar organizations. The judiciary has a plan, a vision, and we support that plan, a strategic plan from 2024 to 2031. And the President has expressed his full support for that plan. And that plan contains a lot of what I am speaking about. Only this morning, another Justice of Appeal, the Honorable Rafiq Khan, was sworn in by His Excellency President Ali at State House. And Justice of Appeal Khan will add to the increased complement of Justices of Appeal at the Court of Appeal. The President announced that there is no longer any backlog in the High Court. And I want to register my congratulations to the judiciary and all those who worked in ensuring that that dreaded backlog of cases finally evaporated. It came after billions and billions of dollars in investments, system changes, new rules of court being implemented, and they all aggregate to disappear a backlog that had burdened the system for decades. Of course, the government will continue to work with the judiciary to ensure that those types of strategies that have resulted in such resounding success continues to be pursued. In this regard, the Attorney General Chambers is working very closely with the judiciary in reviewing civil procedure rules, drafting new rules, as well as reviewing important changes to legislation such as the High Court Act, the Court of Appeal Act, and other important pieces of legislation that changes are required in order to ensure greater efficiency. For example, we are considering amending the High Court Act to ensure that the Registrar of the Supreme Court perform some judicial functions on contested matters. Legal matters can be heard and disposed of at that level rather than engage a judge. Jurisdictions across the Commonwealth and in England have already moved in that direction decades ago. While we have evaporated the backlog in the High Court, there is now a considerable backlog piling up in the Court of Appeal. With the addition of Justice Khan, we will now have 3 courts in the Court of Appeal that can sit at any given time. 3 judges of 3. And I believe if a concerted effort is made, we can diminish the backlog at the Court of Appeal with great speed. And if we are able to do that, and then we move to the magistrates court, and we can do them simultaneously, and address the magistracy and the magistrate court system with the same type of aggression and criticism. I believe that we can have one of the more advanced and modern judicial system and system administering justice in our country. And if we are able to achieve that, then we are really moving to a different status in the world. Because once the judicial system begins to work at that level, you will see how much of our problems will disappear. So, these are all work in progress. And the President spoke about all of that in his address. He spoke about modern legislation in almost every important area of national life, including, of course, the legal sector. Tonight I will only concentrate on the legal sector. I'll continue to expand as I speak more on these matters. But for the year 2026, we have some crucial legislation that will come in relation to the legal sector, and in our efforts to continue and rather advance the modernization of the legal environment. The first one is the Evidence Act. Guyana's Evidence Act, you may find it very difficult to believe, is the 1893 Evidence Act of the United Kingdom. Let me repeat for those who may not have heard me clearly. The current Evidence Act of Guyana is the 1893 Evidence Act of the United Kingdom. Nothing that was relevant in 1893 can be relevant now. So by the sheer passage of time, the Evidence Act is outmoded and outdated. That act was born out of a different era. We are now living in an ICT world. We are moving into digitization. Technology is what permeates our every activity. We store records differently. A modern Evidence Act must embrace this new reality. You prove a case in courts of law, in tribunals of law, in arbitrations, and in almost every judicial, quasi-judicial, and administrative organs. You prove a case by way of evidence. What is evidence? Evidence is materials. The way materials are processed now, the way information is stored now, is radically different from how it used to be stored 30, 40 years ago. Moreover, 100 years ago. So, a new Evidence Act is long required. So we are going to have a new, comprehensive, and modern Evidence Act that is now being used almost all over the world. As I have said so many times before, there is no need to reinvent the wheel. We are using the Australian model. The act, the bill is in draft and will it will be considered by cabinet and then taken for discussion in the public domain. Barbados and many countries in the Caribbean have already enacted similar legislation. Our Companies Act, though a very good piece of legislation, is now 30 years old. It was enacted in 1995. The financial world has transformed over the last 3 decades, and we need to update our legislation. We have new emerging and key and critical concepts that have arisen in commerce and in companies. We have companies being used for illicit purposes, for the laundering of money, and our laws have to be updated to meet international standards. Consultation has already begun with the legal profession, the accounting profession, as well as the private sector. And the amendments will soon again be considered by cabinet before we begin another round of consultation. Another important piece of legislation that will come in the year 2026 is a trust bill or a trust law. In Guyana, we don't have a trust act. The doctrine of trust and the mechanism of a trust is a crucial creation of the law and of equity, and is used for a variety of purposes. You have commercial type trusts, you have personal trusts, and you have trusts that operate or that are created by operation of law. We don't have a legislation governing trust here. In countries where you have that are considered financial centers, like some islands in the Eastern Caribbean, Turk and Caicos, the Cayman Islands, the Bahamas, Anguilla, etc. Trust is a major thing. And our economy is growing, our financial sector is expanding and becoming more sophisticated, and we have to have the mechanisms that a Trust Act provides to protect our financial system. In any event, the Financial Action Task Force has already identified the lack of a trust law in Guyana as a critical deficiency, and we have to fill that deficiency very early. My operator is already signaling to me that we are coming down close to program time, and I have so much more to speak about. As I have said earlier, updates to our cybercrime legislation have to be done. I made reference many times before on this program. I made many reference to a United Nations model of a cyber legislation that they worked on and that have been endorsed by 185 odd countries in the world. During the year 2026, we will be adopting that model. By and large, we contributed to its drafting um, at various symposia held by the UN. And in 2026, we will be moving to implement that piece of legislation. So, when the president spoke about a modern legal sector and one that can withstand scrutiny and rigor, and one that guarantees to the people of Guyana quality protection and the protection of the rule of law, and one that guarantees access to justice, modern justice, justice that is consistent. Those were all the concepts that he was speaking about, and we now have to work towards building them out. Consistent justice, the president spoke about that. Significantly, the Attorney General Chambers hired a consultant and produced sentencing guidelines, which we have deposited with the judiciary for their input, and I believe they have contributed to it, and we have handed it to the judiciary for their implementation, because these are guidelines and not law. And they have it now over a year. Sentencing guidelines are important because it brings uniformity and consistency in sentencing and punishment. A man can go to one court for offense A, and he gets a particular sentence, and he goes to another person goes to another court charged with the same offense, and they get a radically different sentence. Sentence guidelines set down consistent rules, consistent criteria that must be followed by judges and magistrates when they are considering imposing a sentence. And once the rules are settled and they are in black and white, and the criteria are known, then you would not have inconsistent and radically different sentencing from different judges in relation to similar cases. Sentencing guidelines have been used right across the Caribbean, the Commonwealth, and the world to bring uniformity and consistency to judicial decision making. And that's what we need. And the judiciary has it already. I have to follow up why we have not seen it implemented. So, we have passed program time already. So I want to thank you very much for spending the past hour with me. I need to continue this conversation next week because there is so much more that I want to talk about in relation to these issues. I hope that I have not been boring. I know many of you like the political contestations and you like the political aggression. But this program, as I said, is not all about politics, but it is about learning as well. We need to teach each other, and we need to learn from each other. And I would always want to maintain and educational content on this program. But in any event, what we were speaking about was government policies as adumbrated by His Excellency President Ali in his address to the nation, and I was simply expanding upon them. So I want to thank you once again, and excuse me, this is our last program before Christmas, and I want to take this opportunity to wish you, your family, your loved ones, your relatives, and your friends a very Merry Christmas, and I will wish you a Happy New Year next week. But for now, please enjoy the season. Please spend time with your family. Relax. Enjoy. Eat. Drink. Don't overdo it. But make sure that you spend quality time and you rest and you enjoy this season. May God bless you, and thank you very much.